Hi, today you're with Adoption Deconstructed, and I'm with Moses Farrow, a major activist and trauma therapist working with victims from the global child market. Um, Good morning. Good morning, Moses. Although it's afternoon in California where you are.
It is. Well, good morning to you. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining me. We've got a lot to talk about. Um, One of the things
Mhm.
I'm really interested in is that you are very well known in this world of adoption activism, but you've moved away from even using the word adoption and you are changing the language that we all use when describing and discussing this state. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you've started with this because our use of language shapes our sense of reality and therefore uh, we seem to be in a bit of a stuck place with, for so many years, generations really, referring to the act of taking other people's children, raising them as their own, and calling this adoption. And since I've come into this space of activism, uh, I have learned that there is an issue with referring to all this as adoption. So, Uh, here's how I break it down. One, the important thing to understand is that this is an industry, and we need to understand that this is really a human trafficking industry. That the act of taking someone else's child is infused with an exchange of money, exploitation, and various acts of coercion, deception, and really kind of commodification of human lives. So the very basic definition of human trafficking is the buying and selling of people. Um,
Right.
so so it's important to get to uh, like unpacking what goes on when we refer to I've been adopted or giving up a child for adoption.
Right. It's interesting because where you're working is very much the absolutely contemporary world of trafficking, and you are linking adoption to trafficking. And I mean, where I'm more working in the structures and functions and purpose of human adoption, as I like to call it, because I want to differentiate it from pet adoption. We kind of use those words interchangeably. But that idea that that idea that that those of us, particularly, people of my age who are living with in this country in New Zealand with a 70-year-old piece of legislation that continues. It's not that we were adopted, we are living every day as second-class citizens. Um, and you're working very much in the contemporary, the actual uplifting and taking of people for the purpose of providing them to other people. Um, it's
Hmm.
they're linked, but they are quite different areas in a way.
So this is how I've put it together, or deconstructed and then reconstructed this. That it's the human trafficking industry
Right.
that uses adoption as propaganda to run a global child supply market that is now in the billions of dollars. And when I say billions, the number that I'm using these days is a $400 billion industry.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yes, this is a good point to clarify uh, some of the confusion. Is adoption trafficking? Is adoption human trafficking? I kind of appreciate you calling this human adoption, and this is human trafficking, and you're right to say that this is different than pet adoptions, yet the language has been conflated, rehoming, retrafficking, and the uh, kind of uh, um, well, fascination is that people are okay calling themselves pet owners, but not child owners.
I love that point. I think that is, I mean, I know because I know the legislation and the variety of legislation in this country that supports the original 70-year-old legislation. And it is absolutely about ownership, adoption law, and not just in New Zealand, in most Western countries, is it has the same intent no matter which country you're in. And it is about, it is closer to property law than it is to any kind of welfare. I think that is for me one of the things we have to
Mm.
understand is that adoption is not welfare. And it is about being owned. It is about being trafficked, to use your word, from to an being trafficked from one person to another and in being moved into a state of ownership.
So, my mind is already being flooded with so many things to say. As you said, there's so much to cover here. So one part of my mind wants to dial us back to the origins of this industry.
Right.
Um, what I used to refer to as the modern adoption industry, but um, I no longer refer to it as adoption. Adoption does have a place uh, in the language, but this isn't adoption. So, okay. So
Although it is
two,
enabled by the legislation
well,
that is adoption legislation.
the the 2 points about this, going back the 400 plus years to the origin of this modern adoption industry, but it's really the human trafficking industry figuring out a way to cover up the crime of buying and selling a person
Yeah.
on the global scene, right? So, uh, and I'm referencing Janine Vance's book, Adoption: What You Should Know. So, uh, in her book, there's a date, 1618. This is why I say it's a 400 year old industry, the way that we've known it. And so, to your point, the origins wasn't about child welfare or child protection. It was how do we legalize the crime of creating a child labor force
Yeah.
and slavery. So, this is where we have the phrases adoption is in the best interest of your child, and
It's never.
it's about giving them a better life.
Yeah, I mean, those two things, the better life lie, and that idea that your child is, um, that it is in the best interest of the child. We've never actually defined what that means.
Well, in the context 400 years ago, uh, the traffickers were going to impoverished homes and families and delivering these lines, a sales pitch, if you will, and saying, we can take your children and place them in better homes and they'll receive education and chances at a better life. So those are real scenarios that did actually happen.
Built it.
What's hap what's happened since then is the industry has needed to continue to grow and expand
Mm.
and source children from as many places as possible. So they're not going, or they're not no longer only going to impoverished families, but there still carries the image that it is the families living in poverty or living a life of crime or drug using or homeless.
Yeah.
And that image has carried forward, but no, children are being sourced from as many places as possible, from as many people as possible. So we can go down that path in a little while. I did want to um, say at this point, there is a working definition of adoption that I use that comes out of the dictionary. And that's where I say it is the act or fact, to your point, of legally taking someone else's child to raise it as one's own. So I've taken out the key words in that definition and just simplified it. It's taking a, a child to own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this way, it describes the act of, okay, you're taking someone else's child, you're calling the child it, which we can get into more about the commodification aspect and the need for commodification in this quote
Mm.
adoption process to own it.
Yeah.
And so to break this down a bit more, to get a bit more into the commodification aspect, to your point, it is generally a commonplace that the buying and selling of a person is a crime called human trafficking.
Mhm.
And so, how can we uh, use the act, means, and purpose as defined in the UN's definition of human trafficking, of transferring and transporting people without committing a crime?
Yeah.
Uh, Hence, we call it adoption.
Mm.
Hence, the adoption process, we need to legally convert a human life into a commodity,
To a commodity. Transferable. Mm.
transferable goods,
Yeah.
transferable products. And so I know at this point, there's many of us um, in the activism advocacy space that is vocal and outspoken that we are commodified, we are commodities, we are dehumanized. And it's not just us, but our parents, primarily our mothers, as well. So there's so many layers of crimes being committed, but
Yeah.
it's all being covered up under the
Under the term adoption. One of the things,
euphemism
yeah,
adoption.
one of the things about mothers is that, of course, the industry has renamed them birth mothers. So has, reduced them down to their physical function while removing entirely the ability of mothering, but and just to giving birth. And then mothers themselves start calling themselves, have of course call themselves birth mothers, and adopted people call them their mothers birth mothers. And I find it it's demeaning to what mothers have been through. And it is again, it's part of the commodifying not just of the child, but of the process, so that a woman who is pregnant becomes a vessel and nothing more. And her when I was um, writing the other day, it was about how at the point of birth, the mother's um, part of the story disappears. She is done. Her part in the narrative is done. She must move aside, and now we've got the product, and we move it on to the next part.
Yes. So many more good points you brought up here to dive into, unpack. Um, the first one that comes to mind, it's a dehumanization process
Yes, it is.
for her, uh, and really, for them. So that needs to be acknowledged and recognized. That this isn't just child trafficking, that this really is human trafficking.
It is. That's
And
beautifully put.
it uh, starts with our mothers. It starts with our families, you know, as well as our fathers. So it starts with the parents. And what I say at this point, just to focus on our mothers, is that they are being groomed
Yes.
from an early, and I say really from birth, but from an early age into a globalized culture of coercion.
Yeah.
And really what we're speaking about is the industry's propaganda and brainwashing mechanisms, again, to refocus all the attention on this is the best interest of your child. It gives them a better life. You're giving up your child for adoption. Adoption is an option. So these messages have been globalized and normalized. So really, uh, girls today are being born into this globalized culture of coercion, where these messages are readily available to them as soon as they can start comprehending what they mean. And so another point that I want to hit on about the dehumanization process, quite literally, is that women don't have, not all women have this experience of being celebrated as a mother to be, as a mother. So now you're a mother. This industry is, as you pointed out, now refer to them as birth mothers. Now, within their population, within our population, we have said, well, we're not okay with that. We're going to call them natural mothers or first mothers, to kind of do that process of reclaiming, getting control back.
Not
You know,
enough.
um, but all of it qualifying what her role is or what their role is to their child,
Yeah.
which is simply mother. Now, let me take this a step further. This, which goes back to your original question, like this whole change of my context and my use of language away from adoption, the industry itself is moving away from adoption. So, uh, a what we have referred to as the modern adoption industry, which has been the last 400 plus years, it's had a good go. Like, it's a robust global
Yeah.
child supply market, in the billions of dollars. Now, the new markets, thanks to the fertility markets, uh, for a little bit, there were embryo adoptions. But that was really just a go-between. Now we have surrogacy
Mm.
and egg donation,
I
neither of which refer to adoption at all in any other language.
I know, but isn't it interesting that the history of close stranger adoption, that surrogacy fulfills the promise of close stranger adoption, which is and as part of the um, the process for softening people so that they don't even think about it as adoption,
Well,
as
That's
trafficking.
that's just the point. It's normalizing the ongoing dehumanization
Yeah,
process. Now I want to continue this. So surrogacy, women um, celebrate themselves as mothers when they have a child, uh, and then through the industry now are now referred to as birth mothers. Surrogacy, uh, now they're surrogates.
they're surrogates. Exactly.
Now, an egg donation, now they're egg donors.
Yeah, yeah,
And, you know, we are on the horizon of furthering assisted reproductive technologies.
yeah. Gattaca.
So
We'll all be grown in pods soon.
there's literally the use of artificial wombs,
We're running out of time.
right? And so uh, in this stage of surrogacy, um, surrogates, like we said, um, people, are getting familiar with the term gestational carriers,
Yes, exactly.
whole body gestational carriers, uh, egg donors, artificial wombs. And really, where all this is leading to
Synthetic.
is is a process called IVG,
Mm.
in vitro gametogenesis,
Yes,
which is growing babies in labs,
yes.
removing any human connection whatsoever,
Yeah.
other than what is created from stem cells.
I mean, one of the things I think, and we don't have a lot of time left, but in this conversation, but we will pick it up again in a future one, is that, we there when we think about adoption, we talk about a triad. And that's also part of I guess, the propaganda around it, as if you have a mother, a child, and an adopter, and they are three equal parts. When in fact, you have legislation, brokers, and buyers. And the mother and the child are simply the supplier of a product and a product. And I
Hmm.
think that is something that I certainly know that I am increasingly understanding that, and a lot of your work has led me to understand that even more clearly, that we do have to change the entire context that we understand adoption. It's as trafficking, but of course, what I find is when I start talking about it as trafficking, there's a lot of pushback. Adopted people don't want to think that they have been trafficked. But I think once we begin to engage with that, we understand how powerful it is and we understand how important it is to acknowledge it and to move towards where you are in fighting against the trafficking of human beings.
Thank you for saying that, Barbara. And you did mention we are running out of time. Uh, from what I've learned, IVG is projected to be ready for human trials in the next 5 to 7 years. Surrogacy is currently competing with, quote, the adoption market um, at $22 billion as of 2024. This is based on source Global Market Insights. And the projection for surrogacy by 2034, it will be in upwards of $200 billion dollars. So combine that with the traditional, known, acknowledged human trafficking industry, which is now, I believe, the latest quote is $263 billion as the known human trafficking industry. So combined, is certainly well over $400 billion by 2034.
It's
And that's
ridiculous.
just surrogacy
Yeah,
alone, not egg donation, not IVF and all the other fertility markets and certainly so it's all very calculated time frame. And all these issues that you're bringing up, the legal issues, the human rights issues, will all fall by the wayside as we age out and are replaced with offspring, right? Offspring or products from surrogacy in these newer markets where they're already addressing the very same issues that we have been for our lifetimes.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So,
nobody wants to grow up and realize that they've been utterly commodified, that they have been trafficked. Recently, well, a couple of years ago now, I went to court and was able to gain, one of very few people in New Zealand, I was able to gain my court records of my adoption. And I can see, I mean, it all sits there, how it began weeks before I was born, how the doctor was coercing and trafficking, and the social worker, which was the government employee, was working for the adopters. And I mean, it's to me, it's perfect. It just fits into this perfect timeline of trafficking. How to coerce a woman to relinquish her child by force. It's not even relinquish. It is how to remove a child from a woman's body, and then make that a legal process so that she has no rights. Take away all her rights, change the child's identity completely, as if they're in some lifetime witness protection program, and and then stamp all of that. And the government agrees. And then, yeah, you're right. We are going to age out, and this new generation of people are coming up who are experiencing the same thing in a more modern way.
uh, if you can imagine, by 2034, that's 9 years from now, right? And we can treat these dates, kind of relative,
Yeah,
uh, uh, and so within the next decade, an industry that is currently $22 billion over the next 9 years will skyrocket
yeah,
to 200, over 200 billion. And translate that to how many human lives are essentially going to be born and created through this new surrogacy market,
yeah.
surrogacy and egg donation market, right? So uh, there's going to be a huge influx, a whole new generation, multiple generations, all born within the next 10 years.
Yeah,
And you're right to uh, bring this up and say time is of the essence, everyone. It's understandable for our generations. We are still confronted with the same issues our previous generation of commodified people uh, have been fighting. This is intentional by the industry, by the way,
oh yeah, it is
right?
absolutely intentional.
So we we don't have the capacity to say fight the legal battles, fight the human rights battles that we're having to continue to fight decade after decade, and have enough uh, in our reserve to have much left to take on these new emerging markets.
Yeah, it's so true. Moses, we're out of time.
Okay,
I thank you so much. I want to pick this up again shortly in the very next.
absolutely.
I think we have a lot more to unpack. So thank you
Hmm.
very much, Moses Farrow.
Thank you so much. I look forward to coming back.